Well, again, hello everyone. This is Jason Lehman with Fishbowl Solutions. I want to thank everyone for joining us today as we go through our packaged upgrade offering for WebCenter Content 11G. So I'm happy to be joined by Alan McAthune today. Alan is our Technical Program Manager here at Fishbowl, and he's also our Resident Upgrades Expert. So welcome, Alan.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So here's the agenda for our discussion today. We'll start with a quick Fishbowl overview. Then we'll move on to talk about some of the impacts of not upgrading enterprise software. In this case, we're talking about WebCenter Content or UCM 10G. What are some of the misconceptions that customers sometimes have with regards to upgrades? I'll also add here quickly that we're very privileged to be joined by Mike Cohorst of Ryan Companies. And a little later on, Mike will share with us their upgrade success story at Ryan Companies. Again, very happy that Mike can do that today. We'll also do a quick recap of 11G features with regards to WebCenter Content. And lastly, and hopefully the reason most of you are here today is we will introduce Fishbowl's packaged offering for WebCenter Content 11G upgrades. I'll also take this time to do a little bit of a housekeeping. Everyone is on listen-only mode at this time. However, you can ask questions through the GoToMeeting chat interface. If you do have a question, just simply type it in there at any time during the webinar today. We actually do have someone going and monitoring those questions. So if they do come in, we'll monitor them, and then at the end we'll respond to them. But if you have any issues or audio, things like that, we might be able to address that if you type that in the comments as well. At the end, when we do move to questions, if you have a question you want to ask it over the phone, there's a raised hand icon in the GoToMeeting chat interface or web interface. If you click on that, we'll see that your hand is raised next to your name, and then we'll unmute your line for you so you can ask your question. So with that, quickly, who's Fishbowl Solutions? So Fishbowl is a recognized leader in the Oracle Web Center space. We've done a lot of projects since 1999. We're also an Oracle Gold partner. And what that means is we're specialized in Web Center. So we have staff members here that have taken the various accreditation tests or tests that actually prove their knowledge and specialization across Web Center content and portal. We have customers throughout North America and EMEA. We do have, we have staff here and consultants that do the content management piece as well as portals and the overall enterprise information management as it applies to the information in the organization. That also includes business process automation. So one of the areas that we also focus on is improving your business processes through workflows. Won a lot of awards. One of the awards that we're really proud of is the awards we've won on the mobility side for mobile ECM, including the Forrester Groundswell Award. And we'll actually share a little bit of information at the very end of this presentation regarding the new way that you can interact with Fishbowl or get our information through a mobile application. So Fishbowl has extended their knowledge and expertise to many different areas as it applies to content management. That includes the mobile application I mentioned, extending Web Center content management capabilities to mobile devices, including the iPhone and iPad. We also focus on helping you deploy, build, design, and really further leverage information from a portal or a corporate intranet standpoint. So we have experience helping customers really leverage their portal, their portal instance, and making sure the content in their Web Center content system gets surfaced to the portal or intranet. We also have integrations with third-party systems, including SharePoint. So we've built out an integration that bridges content from SharePoint and into Web Center content. And as far as getting access to that content, finding that content, we've also built a connector for Google Search. So you can leverage a Google Search appliance and the power of Google as users do searches within Web Center content. Here's a list of all of our services. Obviously I highlighted the upgrades at the bottom there, but again, Fishbowl is a full-service shop when it comes to Web Center consulting. Again, really helping you extend and leverage your Web Center investment. But why are we here today? So hopefully everyone has come to learn about our package upgrade offering. And as you look at your current environment and think about your reason for why you haven't upgraded, a lot of times as organizations look to do big projects like an upgrade of enterprise software, they view it as kind of climbing a mountain, and that's the analogy I'm using here. So if you might not know where to begin, you like your current 10G system, not seeing a lot of issues with it. So if you actually view an upgrade, you really don't see a starting point to actually move from 10G to 11G. And then you kind of view the scope of work of moving a system that you've been using for, in most cases, a lot of you, 6 years now. How am I actually going to accomplish that? So it might appear on the surface to be too daunting for your organization. And then really what lies ahead? So as Oracle moves down their content management path with WebCenter, what's coming? What features are going to be introduced? What are some of the things that I might encounter as I do an upgrade and move to 11G? What are some feature trade-offs and things like that? And so there are some overall misconceptions. So this is not only misconceptions as applied to content management or WebCenter, but general misconceptions about doing a version-to-version upgrade of enterprise software. A lot of customers, there's a lot of industry information regarding just customers' general feedback and response with regarding to moving to the next version. A lot of customers just decide to wait. They'll wait for the next version to come out, or they'll look for a future version, that is. So in your case, if you think about 12C, as Oracle has kind of talked about that, they shared some information at Open World about that last year, and you're on 10G and you want to move to 12C, that might actually not be possible. In most cases, it's not possible because a consecutive version upgrade is required. You have to get 11G, you have to get on WebLogic Server. And then you might look at renewing maintenance and support when upgrade is planned. So if you don't want to stay current on maintenance and you move to 11G or 12C, you might have to pay the back maintenance and support fees that you would have on your version. As far as lack of features, so obviously that's one of the things that we continually hear regarding the move from 10G to 11G. The feature set was thin in a lot of cases, what customers have been saying. But as you'll hear later on, as Mike and Ryan companies talked a little bit about, they've really been able to increase user interaction and productivity with some of the new features available in 11G. And then just eliminating that cost altogether. So giving up on continue to pay your maintenance fees and support costs. But actually what you're giving up to is all the other information that you might be able to attain by being current with support, including the access to the knowledge base, training, events, and other resources. So overall, again, in general, high level, what are some of the impacts of not upgrading? So if you're not getting those security updates or bug fixes, if you think about the impacts that might have to downtime and across the organization, that could be critical. If content management is a critical system that supports business processes within your organization, you wouldn't want a bug fix or a patch to upgrade or a patch to influence or impact being live and current, in production with your system. And as technology evolves, so if you think about Moore's law, technology evolves every 2 years. There's a new technology, and technology quickly it gets outdated. If you think about even browsers, so IE10 is out. How might that impact an older version of software if you're not current with the most current version that has the most current technologies and platform integrations and browser support? And then development costs. Obviously, I'm sure most of you are aware of the development costs that are incurred if you want to continually to develop against your 10G instance and customize it, keeping those customizations current and intact and viable as you go forward, again, as those technologies change and other integration points are necessary. And then the overall cost of ownership. So can your organization afford to be down, if there is any downtime encountered because of a patch or a bug? What is the extended support going to cost me? So if I'm past my current support or premium support, what is extended support actually going to cost me? And then the services cost just to maintain your overall system or what you might pay to a third-party provider. So there are benefits of upgrading as well. So as you move to 11G, Oracle's touted a very more robust system on WebLogic Server. It's multi-threaded. The input-output is a lot higher. So if you look at you're growing your content across your organization, 11G with WebLogic Server will help you increase performance. Functional enhancements, Alan will give a refresher on some of the features and functionality available, how that really is going to improve the productivity of your users. better alignment to business processes and trends. So as an organization that's invested in Oracle database, other middleware technology, if you move to 11G, those integration points are much stronger, and then obviously move into the Java platform as well will be better for your organization. And then reducing the overall total cost of ownership. So if you can move to a new system today and getting rid of some of those development and overhead costs that you have to maintain your current system, you can actually go forward and reduce your overall total cost of ownership. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mike Cohorst at Ryan Companies. And again, Mike, thanks for joining us today. And we'll let you cover the next 3 slides and tell us about your upgrade success story.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me, Jason. My name is Mike Cohorst. I'm the IT manager at Ryan Companies. For those that don't know about Ryan Companies, we are a privately held. We just celebrated our 75th anniversary, and we're a construction and commercial real estate company. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the process of why, how, and what our next steps are for UCM. So some of the business problems that we had were, and I'm sure everybody has this, and we had our 10G environment. So we've been on 10G for a while. We did our original implementation with Fishbowl back in, I think, 2008 timeframe. So, what we are leveraging content for is just we had trouble finding documents, eliminate multiple copies, better searching capabilities, and then lastly, one of the reasons we wanted to do the upgrade is we wanted to consolidate. We were moving from SQL Server and leveraging our Oracle database server. We're a J.D. Edwards shop, so when you talk about leveraging integration points, we're looking to leverage some of the integration from Content Server into J.D. Edwards, and we already have knowledge with the WebLogic platform, so that's another lowering our total cost of ownership. Prior to addressing the problem, we had a lot of separate repositories, network shares, SharePoint, cloud storage, and content, or our Oracle Content Server. We're trying to get everything centralized in our Content Server so we can have better search capabilities and leverage that more. Expected business and IT benefits, again, I think stated earlier, the consolidation, leveraging the Oracle searching capabilities within inside the database. And what we're really driving for is some of the new features, better user adoption, better integration with the Oracle desktop integration suite, and enhance the user experience so that they'll want to utilize it more. You can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so a little bit about our project details of what we put together a team. One of the most important things of any IT project is having executive sponsorship. So my boss, John Leeper, the CIO, endorsed this project to the company, basically stating why we had to upgrade, and that's very critical to the project. If you don't have executive sponsorship, people will question why we're doing this. And then we worked with Fishbowl to kind of do a discovery process, and with that we put together, we had kind of a person inside and a representative from Fishbowl helping us. As you can see, I was our project manager, and Alan was the Fishbowl representative, which was very helpful. And one of the things that we really enjoyed was having both Jeremy and Andy come in and work with my staff, Ryan McEnany, and kind of give them that knowledge transfer and go through the sizing and why we were doing certain things. The length of the upgrade was a 6-week, and that was building it out in development and production. And so we did go live February 15th. We started it at the beginning of the year. Total number of users, we have about 600 users company-wide. A little bit about our architecture. We did go from SQL to our Oracle 11G database. We also have one of the content server, as you can see in the top, and we have a PDF writer that basically converts everything. And we do utilize VMware in this process, except our Oracle database is not virtualized. So, okay, you can go to the next slide. A little bit about the best practices and challenges to overcome. Basically, I would say that the ability to run through the test upgrades in the development environment is critical. You can test some of your conversions from your custom code. One of the difficult things is getting the user acceptance testing, and this was a challenge for us. We didn't catch a lot of, we had a few things towards the end of the project that should have been caught in user testing, which they didn't do, but luckily with Fishbowl and Ryan McEnany, we're able to work through that and still meet our deadline. So we had weekly status meetings with Fishbowl, and that kept us on track and on schedule. The other important thing was the consultants from Fishbowl were on site, and they were able to do a great knowledge transfer throughout the whole process. The big thing is with any IT project, we were on time, under budget, which was great. The executives love that. Future plans, what we are planning to do are really enhance that user adoption through ease of use, and part of that is better integration with the Microsoft Office suite and the Oracle Desktop Integration Suite. We're also, now that we're getting more content in Content Server, we're basically we're using Fishbowl's mobile app to be able to search content from our Android and Apple devices, which is going to help with that user adoption. And we, again, we're enhancing the user experience. It has to be easy for them in order for them to adopt. So that's kind of our project in a nutshell. It was a great success, and we look forward to continuing our great relationship with Fishbowl.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Mike. There was a question that came in quickly. I know you have to drop off here shortly, but again, thanks for attending. One question is, how has network-attached storage impacted the performance of WebCenter, if at all?
Okay. We are a EMC shop, so we have an enterprise solution with them with Virtual Disk, and we have what they call enterprise flash disk and disk caching. So it will basically go to the different tiers, and it really, our performance since we've upgraded our EMC storage array has, as far as the being able to go across those different tiers, the enterprise flash drives, we see great performance on our Oracle database, and we haven't noticed any problems or issues so far.
Great, Mike. Thanks. That was a great success story for you guys there at Ryan. Continued success in the future. Thanks again for joining today.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So as we move forward here, we're going to give a quick recap of some of the features of 11G. And again, I'm sure most of you have heard these. I mean, 11G was released 3 years ago. But just so we're on the same page, we'll quickly review some of those features, and I'm going to be turning that over to Alan here shortly. But Alan, before you begin, excuse me, one of the points of contention seems to be, you know, as customers move from 10G to 11G, they got to get on WebLogic Server. So please touch on some of the complexity from an architecture standpoint, you know, as far as moving from 10G to 11G.
Sure, thanks, Jason. I guess the biggest difference between 10G and 11G is in 10G and previously, since I guess the beginning, Content Server basically ran as a standalone JVM closely tied to a web server, almost always right on the same machine with the web server. So in 11G, it moves to running inside a WebLogic server. So either WebLogic Server or WebSphere it's supported on also, but it's running inside a container instead of running closely tied to the web server. If a web server is needed, sometimes with Site Studio it's helpful, sometimes with single sign-on solutions it's helpful. That can be enabled either on the same machine or on another machine in front of it, but the tie to the web server is not as tight. So what happens is WebLogic Server is taking on some of the things that Content Server did in the past standalone JVM, things like the data sources or the connections to the database, also the user authentication tie to the, basically the ties to the user providers, LDAP, Active Directory, whatever it is. WebLogic Server is doing a lot of authentication now. Additionally, clustering, WebLogic Server is taking over some of the responsibilities for clustering, so it's nice. You don't have to worry about it as much.
So it sounds like there's actually a lot of benefits moving to WebLogic Server, the robustness, scalability, things like that. So listed here, Alan, are some of the WebLogic Server overall in general, some other features. Could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the change to WebLogic Server is a change. It's a difference, but there are some definite benefits there. As far as WebLogic Server, the enhancements within Content Server, the big thing is Oracle is trying to integrate it into their stack and tie it, integrate it with some of their other applications and things. Actual features for ECM, there weren't a lot of features tied in. There was a lot of performance testing and overall testing done to address a lot of issues and reliability. So that's a benefit. Desktop had a lot of changes. Desktop's able to leverage the content profile so that when you're checking in through desktop, you can get the same tailored check-in pages that you get through the web application directly. So
yeah, so now we're speaking more to the features of the actual ECM as we move on from WebLogic. So obviously they're on WebLogic, but what are some of the new features in 11G from a content management perspective? Just kind of a refresher here. You mentioned Desktop Integration Suite. Mike talked about that. What else, Alan?
Right. Framework folders was added, and actually that's more of the default in the later patch sets now. Framework folders is a new architecture on basically a whole new rewrite of what used to be known as Folders G. There's performance benefits there and scalability benefits. They've also added a pretty nice feature in query folders so that you can define a folder associated with a query, and it'll just bring back everything associated with the query. So you can say, bring back, show everything within the last 7 days, and you can have a folder called new content, and it just has automatically cycling the newest content, latest and greatest in the system. Another twist on that is retention query folders, where you define a query for a folder, but then assign a retention to that so that that content is automatically, say, deleted after so long a time. So you could say, in this query, show me everything, all the content that's been expired, and then you could say keep that for a year. And so if you have content expiring, it can automatically be cleaned out in a year. Sure.
So I mean, so there are a lot of features from a content management perspective. You touched on Desktop Integration Suite being the big one. You mentioned also retention. I caught that word in here. So talk a little bit about records management. We're also getting feedback from a lot of customers that they want to learn more about records management. They want to move to records management in 11G.
Absolutely. We've been doing more records management lately, more projects. Records management really was a new rewrite in 11G. There was quite significant changes, and really what that had to do with is if you look down on the bottom under certifications there, it says DoD 5015 Chapter 2 Version 3, V3. The version 3 of the DoD spec changed quite a bit, requiring the application to change to maintain its compliance. It's much more flexible, and users have found it to be it's a little different, but it's much, like I said, much more flexible, much easier to meet real business requirements within either government or corporate.
Okay. Great. So again, a lot of features added on the content side, records management. One other thing that we want customers to be aware of, and I'm sure they are, but just to review quickly, Alan, support will change for customers on 10G going forward. So if you look at the GA date of 10G, which was May of 2007, their premium support, or premier support, has ended effectively. So what are their options going forward, and what are the impacts that some of those options present?
Right. For an additional 3 years, Oracle is offering extended support, but the cost does increase for that over what has been paid in past years. It's still, they'll take calls. They do issue some security updates and if there's bad issues, but they're not developing to that anymore, and it's aging. They're not enhancing things as new
Sure.
Operating system things come out. It's falling behind.
So you're paying for more and you're actually getting less because you're not on the most recent version. You're not getting, going forward even further, you're not going to get the patches and stuff like that. So as they move to sustaining port, they're actually being charged per renewal pricing. So that whole trade-off, that adds to overall total cost of ownership for the solution.
Right. There's another 3 years of extended support, but then it goes to sustaining support, as you say, and they're not really offering patches anymore. They're taking calls and they'll try and help you work through issues, but
sure.
You're getting pretty far out by that time.
Sure. So thanks, Alan, for that little refresher. So now, we really want to dig into, what the package offering that Fishbowl has put together for customers like yourselves to really move from 10G to 11G. And that package really includes 5 things. So Alan, we're going to start here. So could you take us through this kind of from a phased approach, what's represented here? What is our package offering? What are the steps people take down this path to upgrade?
Sure. Once we actually are, brought in, we'll step through this. I guess I'd step one step back. Before we're brought in, we do have an upgrade questionnaire that we're going to send out to you to have you complete that so that we have a good understanding of what you've got in place. Once we get in, we have an idea of that. We kind of have merged this normally separate scoping and design phases in that we're going to be coming in, really looking at your system, analyzing the components, looking at the architecture, identifying any changes that might need to be made. If you're going to be moving like Ryan did from SQL Server to Oracle database, that certainly has an impact in the upgrade process. You're not really eligible to do an upgrade in place at all. You're really doing a migration then. But we'll determine that. We'll define the deployment plan for the upgrade, whether we're doing an upgrade in place or a migration. And just make sure we identify all the places where we might run into gotchas. Make sure the user authentication and authorization is addressed, and that users are going to be able to log in and still see everything that they saw before.
Sure.
When we get that deployment plan nailed down, we'll go into the dev environment and start, test it basically in the dev environment. We'll do the installations or the upgrade in place as the plan requires. Make sure all the configuration migrated, make sure all the components are upgraded so that they're functional still, and do some system and unit testing there on our own.
Sure.
At that point, we'll move over to the implementation phase, and that is building out the stage and production environments, where again, we'll go back to the deployment plan, we'll execute it, make sure it works correctly in staging, and then once we've got our stage environment set up, we'll turn it over to the users for user acceptance testing. And Mike alluded to the fact that they had a hard time getting users to actually get in there and test. It is important. Things architecturally changed, and that can have impacts. We've gotten pretty good at identifying most of those, anticipating those, but it is important to have users get in and take a look.
So yeah, so we're going to dig a little deeper into some of these, but the underlying thing here too, Alan, and obviously one of the big things that you bring to Fishbowl is the underlying project management that's included in this phased approach. So Alan, dig a little deeper. So we start with scoping and design. We're engaged with the customer. We take a look at their system, and then we kind of move forward from there. So scoping and design is the critical first step.
Right, absolutely. We have to look at the existing architecture and all the instances you have. If you have separate contribution consumption or other instances, if it's clustered or not, we make sure we understand the architecture so we're not losing anything. If you have, wherever your conversion server is, if you have one, we need to identify all of those. In addition, the standard components, things like Site Studio or other add-ons that you've enabled, make sure we know about those. Plan that migration path, and then try and get into your existing components a little bit so we understand what they're doing, and we know what we'll need to do to make them work.
But the meat of the work is really in building and testing, right, Alan?
Absolutely. Once we've got our plan, we go ahead and at a high level, we go ahead and execute it in the dev environment. And here we're really detailing that deployment plan, taking notes on everything we're doing so that when we get to the later environments, it's already been done once. A note here on search configuration: if you're on Verity, that's not really supported in any way anymore. So
yep.
We'd have to migrate to either database or something else. So that's a concern. We'll install a new inbound refinery and make sure the content is migrated and handled. So.
But again, this is the big chunk of work that Fishbowl, once we're there, we have someone on site, this is the most of the work that they go through, that building.
Absolutely. Implementation then is really just building out the stage and test environments, or the stage and production environments. We're going to be executing the plan at that point. We should have, we've done it all before, so that's pretty, just executing according to plan. So it's pretty repeatable, or it should be. And then supporting the UAT. So if anything comes up,
that's a big piece, the user acceptance testing. Obviously, Mike said, so you have buy-in from the very top, and this is kind of a directive from the top. Users still need to buy into the system, so doing that testing is a big piece of that, right, Alan?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And post-production support, we're going to be available, readily available. If we need to support you during the go-live to, on a weekend or whatnot, we do that. And then we're a phone call away or directly on site if required.
Sure.
During the actual, initial go-live to make sure things go smoothly.
Okay. And then obviously we do the work, and we want to make sure that the represented knowledge is transferred from the people at Fishbowl that did the work,
yep.
And then everything that we documented.
Yep, we'll hand over that deployment plan. We also have found that customers coming in new to WebLogic Server appreciate at least a couple-hour, kind of formal knowledge transfer session on WebLogic Server itself. So we go through the admin server, we go through the logging there and the data sources and the user provider configuration to make sure that you're comfortable with, the content server is still basically the content server, but make sure you understand what's new in WebLogic Server for content management.
And then we celebrate successes, right?
Absolutely.
And then I mentioned, obviously, project management. So, Alan, obviously, there's the underlying component, making sure things get done and are on task and scheduled accordingly. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. We've tried to formalize this more, so especially we focused on it in the last year. The weekly status calls, making sure everybody's on track, making sure issues are identified and elevated as needed so that they don't come back to bite us later. We develop a list of milestones right at the beginning that we can track every week to make sure we're getting done what we expected to get done.
Sure.
And keep the project moving.
All right. Thanks, Alan. So really, this package includes 5 phases. There's 5 things that we're including in the package with the underlying project management. We'll detail that a little bit later, but again, this is a package offering that includes everything you just went through. So again, thanks, Alan. So so far we've shared with you, a lot of information regarding some of the impacts of not upgrading. We talked about our phased approach to an upgrade plan and what that package includes. Also wanted to quickly share another success story. So this customer is over on the East Coast. They're a real estate investment firm. So they had a lot of content to manage for all the various transactions that they were involved in. Their drivers were, as they looked at their 10G instance, their dev system was out of date. So not supporting the latest technologies was an issue for them because they couldn't develop against it anymore. Just the technology wouldn't allow them to do so, or it became too difficult. They also had a legacy imaging system that had a very neat viewer. So that viewer in that imaging system, they could annotate, redact information, mark up information, but they wanted to move away from that because it wasn't an Oracle-based system. So moving off that system was another driver for getting to 11G. And then improving overall user productivity. So we've hit on Desktop Integration Suite a couple times. It came up here at this customer again. Really making sure that there's content management in context of business processes. And with Desktop Integration Suite and 11G, this customer has been able to do that. So we worked with them. We upgraded 2 instances to 2 servers, I should say, of 10G to 11G. We integrated their Active Directory, so making sure the security was up and running, but configured the file store provider. And then as they looked at moving from 10G to 11G on the imaging side, they had that legacy imaging system. What were they going to get with 11G? So we walked them through that. And one of the benefits that they're seeing is, that IPM 11G has a viewer as well. It's actually a very powerful viewer for annotating and redacting and marking up images. So they were very happy about that. but then also ensuring that their processes and integrations that they have today, including their Kofax integration, that's a document capture system that they're using to scan all these documents, would work going forward. And so we made sure that the connector and the integration provided between Kofax and Oracle Web Center content was up and running as well. So with that, we do have another poll question. So again, we've shared with you a lot of the impacts of not upgrading. We've also reviewed some of the features in 11G. Alan took you down the path of what it means, what our package includes. So in hearing all that and considering your future plans with Web Center, we just wanted to know what your general time frame is to upgrade to 11G. So I'm going to go ahead and open the next poll. So 1 second here, and Alan, as I do that, what do you think more recently some of the biggest drivers have been with regards to with customers and their interest to upgrade to 11G? What with it being such a recent hot topic, what do you feel is driving that?
Sure. I mean, 11G has been out quite a while, so it's stabilized. The support, going to extended support, is driving certainly some people to really want to move up. Other things, people have new projects, new buckets of content that they want to move in, new integrations that they want to do, and they don't really want to necessarily do that on the old 10G system because they know they're going to have to upgrade at some point.
Sure.
Also, the new desktop, they do find that it helps, so they, that has driven, a couple people to make the jump. Yeah, so Oracle also did a lot of testing and benchmarking for the actual in-out rates and the performance that customers could see if they move to WebLogic Server. So in terms of scalability and performance, as they go forward with this new architecture that's really built to help customers grow their content, I mean, customers can continue to grow their content and not have to worry about performance. Would you agree? Absolutely. I mean, we have noticed it in some of the larger deployments. I wouldn't say the performance was a driver, but their old systems were, sluggish and underperforming, and I have received very positive feedback going to 11G that things are much snappier.
All right, great. So I think everyone's had a chance to answer the poll question, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and get back to our presentation. So thanks again for everyone for answering that. A lot of the results are kind of very mixed. So there's a lot of you that are saying, you're thinking about this. It's probably at least 3 months away. So again, thanks for answering the poll question for us. Okay, and so I'm going to go back in presentation mode here. So here we are. So we're so the next slides, a few slides, I'm going to share with you what this comprehensive package looks like. And so so what we're offering here is a package that again includes everything that Alan walked through at a price for $29,995. And what that price includes is everything again Alan walked through. With a few other components, which again he mentioned this upgrade questionnaire. As you fill that out, we'll get more of that information. So listed under that price is kind of in general what we're seeing, including at Ryan Companies, what we'll install and configure for customers. We'll install 1 instance of Web Center content in 3 environments: the dev environment, test, and production. We'll also upgrade and your standard and custom components. So we're applicable if they're not heavily customized, we can still perform that upgrade for you and make sure that there are any custom components that you have in 10G will work in 11G as well. The content migrator component that's a Fishbowl value add Web Center component. That's included in this package price, and that will really help you from an automated fashion move your content from 10G into 11G. So again, that price is based on a repeatable upgrade framework or work that we've done at many customers. Which we touched on 2 of those today, Ryan Companies and the other customer I shared with you. It's really that starting point for your overall upgrade project. And again, with the upgrade questionnaire, we'll vet out by the answers you give us regarding your current 10G instance and what some of those might be. So Alan, we talked about this upgrade questionnaire. What are some of the questions that we're asking customers to provide from that questionnaire standpoint?
Right. We're really trying to scope the work here. So we're looking at the instances that you have. If you have separate contribution consumption or an RM instance as well as a document instance, the number of environments, dev, stage, prod is assumed, but what exactly do you have? type of search that you've got, the operating system, just architecture questions to get an idea of what we're working in.
Sure.
The amount of content, and then add-ons and features if you've got Site Studio sites, records management, inbound refinery or digital asset management, those kind of things.
Okay. And in general, Alan, I mean, who's the person at each WebCenter customer that should be filling this questionnaire out?
Yeah, your content server administrator is going to be able to answer them most effectively.
And how long would that actually take them in general?
An hour or two
okay.
should be sufficient.
So what we're asking for anyone interested in this package price learning and getting more information from Fishbowl, just simply send us an email at the email listed here, sales@fishbowlsolutions.com. Just with send me your questionnaire. Or if you're working currently with a Fishbowl account manager, you can contact them and say, Tim or Jimmy or George, send me this questionnaire. I'd like to fill it out. Send it back to that person or to Fishbowl, the sales inbox. And then within 1 or 2 days, we'll reply with you based on the questionnaire information we get and the various criteria. We'll reply to you and say this is definitely a fit for you. We have the upgrade package that we just shared with you fits within this price, and we can begin upgrading your system for you. So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you. So this presentation was put together to kind of help customers understand that there is a path and a package that can move them from 10 to 11G. And with the Fishbowl Promise, what we just want everyone to understand is as you look at doing that, you're going to get expert analysis from an organization, Fishbowl, that's done this many times. So it's a repeatable framework. We've had many successes with it. Customers have enjoyed working with us because they know that we have the experience and expertise necessary to get them to the newest version. We also provide the best strategy for you to upgrade as far as the migration of content and how your go-forward customization components may work. Also, Alan mentioned training on WebLogic Server, so that's a value-add piece to really make sure that you're going for your organization will be able to leverage the overall benefits of WebLogic Server. And then we document all the steps. So everything that we do is documented. We're working in parallel with project managers at your organization or other technical admins, so they know what we're doing, they know what's going on. We're very visible with the processes that we're going through. And then it's really the shared knowledge of what we've done in the current system, and then helping you continue to work with you to help you further leverage your WebCenter investment going forward. So again, Fishbowl's worked with many customers on upgrades. We also have this overall solution expertise on the WebCenter side. We take a holistic approach to WebCenter consulting. So we might get your quick win might be upgrading to WebCenter, but then going forward, you might be having another project that you want to do on the portal side, or if you want to implement mobile content management, or you want to integrate SharePoint, we can help you with that. Again, I want to make clear that the package upgrade offer that we shared with you today is for WebCenter content. However, we have done other upgrades with other WebCenter products, including the imaging component and records management that Alan touched on a little bit as well. So with that, it is time for questions. So again, if you have a question you'd like to answer over the phone or ask over the phone, there's a little raised hand icon in the GoToMeeting interface, and once you click on that, we'll see that you've raised your hand and we'll answer your question. You can also type in any questions in the GoToMeeting chat interface. And here's the information on our Fishbowl To Go app. So again, if you're looking to continually get information from Fishbowl, we have an app to do that. So you can go out to the iStore, Apple Store, and grab our mobile application and for free, and you can see some of the features and functionality of pulling content from Fishbowl's website.
So we have a question coming in about Jason and Alan. Can you elaborate on kind of the differences between doing an in-place upgrade and doing a migration, and kind of what would be the reasons you might want to do one over the other?
Right. When possible, we like to do the in-place upgrade. You don't risk missing any configuration or anything. It's just when possible, we've had some good success with that. But it's not always possible. If you're like Ryan, changing your database or changing your operating system, it's not going to work, if you're actually moving to new hardware. moving to new hardware doesn't necessarily exclude it, or moving to a VM environment. As long as you're in the same operating system, we can copy it over, basically get the processes running, and then run the upgrade assistant on it. So.
We also have had a couple of questions about the availability of this after the session. So we will be recording the webinar, and all attendees and registrants will get a link to both the recording as well as the presentation that will be available on Fishbowl's website.
Awesome, great, Kim. And I also wanted to mention, so Mike, co-host of Ryan, had to drop off, but we have Jeremy here. Jeremy was the consultant at Ryan, so if there are any questions regarding Ryan's implementation, their architecture, their process, Jeremy can answer those as well.
We did have a question about the mobile app up on the screen right now. That does work on both 10G and 11G environments, so if you have 10G or 11G, you can use that to search for your content and view items from WebCenter.
Great.
There was a question about, in general, how long would it take to go into production? So with the standard migration upgrade, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, like Ryan had said, or Mike had said about Ryan companies, it was 6 weeks. For a straightforward upgrade, that's very doable.
Okay. Some other questions coming in here through the chat interface.
We had a question about suggest Linux over Windows when upgrading.
I guess I don't have a recommendation as far as that goes. We can support either one. We've seen customers do both. We have seen more going to Linux recently than had been, more moving from Windows to Linux. So that's good.
Okay, we do have a few questions that have, looks like some people have raised their hands in the GoToMeeting interface. So the first question is from Niraj. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. Okay, Niraj, you should be able to ask your question.
It doesn't look like he's connected to audio.
Okay. So the next question from Raid Turkmane. Raid, you can ask your question. Raid, if you have a question, your phone line is open, so you can go ahead and ask that question.
I see he typed one in.
Oh, he did type one. Okay.
Yeah. Do you recommend AD versus OVD OAM from a security perspective? We've had good success with AD and also OVD OAM. It just depends. If you've got more of a complex AD structure and multiple directories, you're probably going to need to go to OVD OAM. But we've had good success with both.
Great. So a few other questions coming in here. And again, the Fishbowl to Go app that's on the screen, again, that's a free version, so if you want to play around with the features and functionality of a mobile app, definitely encourage you to do so.
There's a question about how we perform migration of old proprietary images to the new platform. I mean, migrations are always, that would basically be new content being migrated into Content Server. That wouldn't really be in scope for the upgrade. But we've certainly done a lot of migrations. We've got, the enterprise batch loader, web-based batch loader, different tools to support that. But that's kind of a broad question.
Sure.
We have a question about checkout and open.
With 11G, I mean, there are issues really more so in Microsoft's implementation of WebDAV. We've worked through most of those, and like I said, we've got some customers using desktop and pretty happy with it. But have you had any issues? We've had some issues. Most of them we've been able to work through. So
sure.
We've got a couple of questions about URLs changing during InPlace migrations. Do you want to make any comments about that, Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. In one of the more recent patch sets that Oracle released, they changed the default file store provider configuration. so that the files are laid out on the file system in a different way than they have been from the beginning of time. If you do a new install and just export and import your content or migrate your content, they'll be laid out differently and your web URLs will change, and if you have links in other content or things, that they're all going to break. So if you do an in-place upgrade, it takes over the existing file store provider configuration, so that's not a problem. And also, if we're doing the upgrade, we're going to look for that. If we have to do a migration and do a new install, we're going to make sure we set up your file store provider configuration to maintain the existing links.
We have a question. Someone wants to ask through the phone, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute Suraj Aryals. Suraj?
Suraj, how are you doing? No, you can't answer, sorry.
Go ahead and ask your question, Suraj. Okay, we're having some connectivity issues on the phone, so I'm going to go ahead and mute you again, Suraj.
The question about going from Verity to Oracle Text or SES. You want to just talk about what that process might look like?
Do you need to do anything? You need to enable Oracle Text in the database, but it's pretty straightforward. And SES is basically Oracle Text, just in a separate database. So it's pretty straightforward as far as migration goes. So.
We also had a question about if you have any issues with the iPhone app, who do you contact? You could just email support@fishbowlsolutions.com.
We do have a question over the phone, so Raid Turkmani, if you want to go ahead and ask your question, I've unmuted your line as well. Raid?
I think he already asked it over the chat.
Okay. Any other questions? So the questions that we're not able to get to today, we do follow up and answer all those questions. The form that we use for that is actually on our C4 blog. So obviously you'll get a copy of this presentation, but for any of those questions, we'll also point you to our C4 blog for any of the questions, for all the answers to the questions that were asked. Do we have any more questions, Alan and Kim?
Some things are coming through, but it does include the migration testing of Site Studio sites. The question was, does your upgrade package include the migration testing of Site Studio sites? Yes, I mean, it's a huge site. It's going to take a little longer, but that's just in the scope of everything else.
Which will be based on the upgrade questionnaire that each customer will go through.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we do have 4 minutes left. I do want to be mindful of everyone's time, but if you do have any other questions, we would like to answer them. So,
see a couple questions about on-site personnel. Yes, I mean, we can certainly come out and work with you on-site at your discretion. It would be an expense there, but so the travel would be an expense, but certainly we come and give you on-site support for the upgrade.
Great. All right, any other questions that we can ask or that we can answer with the minutes remaining? So I think we can start to wrap it up though. Thanks for all those great questions. So again, if you do want to have any of those questions answered offline outside of this webinar, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Work with your Fishbowl account manager. You can email info or sales@fishbowlsolutions.com. But again, I want to thank you for attending today. I'm going to leave you with some more contact information to get how to get a hold of Fishbowl Solutions. Again, the webinar has been recorded, so there'll also be a recording that we'll make available on our website. It'll also be on YouTube, things like that. And then each person that registered for the webinar will get a link to the actual presentation as well. So again, thanks for joining us everyone. And